The headline's going to start with the Times Ireland edition. And the back page here is Spurs star injury blow for Ireland. This is a bit of a disaster for Ireland's under-17 hopes because Troy Parrott was stretchered off while playing for Spurs under-23 last night. Had a fairly hefty challenge from one of the Derby County under-23 players, and we got our campaign underway on Friday. It's in Ireland, and we play Greece at Tala, and then we got the Czech Republic on Monday, and then we finish against Belgium on Thursday week. We need the top two finish in the group to secure a quarter-final place for the third successive year. So Irish underage football is actually going quite well at the moment. And then semi-final is bigger for us than a trophy. Some really great details of the Mauricio Pochettino Daniel Levy meeting 5 years ago, as it was now, and what he needs to do.
The Irish Times leads with tonic for the troops as Ajax bosses go back to the glory days, and Pochettino and Spurs reach for infinity and beyond. Mary Hannigan, meanwhile, has spoken to Louise Quinn. Good times rolling at last for Arsenal's Quinn. And then Emmett Malone talking about the Republic of Ireland under-17s to take a step into the unknown. What's the Pochettino headline? To infinity and beyond. Let's do this now. Let's talk about Mauricio Pochettino's quotes. Buzz Lightyear music there. Very timely. Just a complete coincidence. We absolutely did not plan that. So Pochettino talking about the next couple of weeks for Spurs, obviously a big few weeks, particularly in the Champions League. Not in the history of football can another story like Tottenham's be repeated. You need to settle your dreams in the infinity and beyond. I'm already living my dream, said Pochettino. To be in the semi-final with Spurs was a dream 5 years ago, and we are living the dream. But you must always dream with the moon if you want to get to the sky. What a great line. When you are ambitious and you want to achieve big things, you need to set your dream. I was always a dreamer. When I was very young, I dreamed in my hometown of Murphy that one day I would be a football player, and I achieved that. It was tough to achieve all that I dreamed, but I always believed there was some energy, the power in your mind, and when you are determined to achieve the things that you dream, it's only about waiting and working hard to try to get them. Heartwarming stuff from Mauricio Pochettino. There's great stuff. There's great other stuff in the press conference as well, which we'll get to in just a moment.
There you go. Poch is buzzing, as you just heard there. Mauricio set sights on infinity and beyond is the back page headline on the Star. Fanning blasts camp ban. So, Waterford boss Parrott Fanning has labelled the GA's proposal to ban warm weather foreign training camps a load of nonsense. Fanning's side enjoyed a recent camp in Portugal approved by Croke Park chiefs. Tribute as another Lisbon Lion is lost, and PSG's 100 million bait for De Gea. Paris Saint-Germain will offer David De Gea a package worth in excess of €100 million to lure him from Manchester United this summer. I mean, if you're getting offered 100 million quid and it's like, will I go and live in Paris? What's the difference? Paris, Manchester? I mean,
with double the money.
You know, I'm going to go.
The Irish Examiner goes with Wall of Fame. Myler confident Pork will be ready for Munster Hurling Championship, and daring to dream Pochettino urges Spurs to seize Champions League destiny. Mike Quirk then is writing this morning about the April Club Month. How was your April Club Month experience? It was very good for Quirk himself. League of Ireland, Cork City helped by Harps. Rovers stay ahead of the pack, while Munster coaching recruits will have attacking focus. Meanwhile, Ruby Walsh writing this morning that classical dream can cap great season with Punchestown win.
The front of the Irish Daily Mirror this morning. Luis Suarez, Liverpool have a bright future after I helped dump them out of Europe. And he's got his salute to infinity and beyond. Spurs Lightyear in Euro rallying call. And they've mocked him up as Buzz Lightyear. And then PSG plot £90 million De Gea raid. So this one is Paris Saint-Germain will offer David De Gea a package worth more than £90 million to lure him away from Manchester United. £90 million, €100 million. And Troy stick as a parrot. See what they did there? See what they did?
Do you want to explain it? No, I get it. The back page of The Sun is Joy Story. Buzzing Poch tells Spurs to aim for infinity and beyond, while Ole Croc Shock, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's slim top four hopes have been rocked by an injury crisis to his strikers, namely Marcus Rashford and Romelu Lukaku, and he's sick as a parrot as well. So The Sun and what was that, The Mirror, along similar lines, both go with sick as a parrot, and both go with a mock-up of Mauricio Pochettino as Buzz Lightyear.
All right. I didn't know where sick as a parrot actually originally came from. Thought that maybe it had something to do with
your tone suggests it has a grim history.
Well, it's like just not interesting at all. The phrase was originated by the dramatist Afra Ben in her 1682 comedy The False Count, in which the maid Jacinta says of her mistress Julia, "Lord, madam, you are as melancholy as a sick parrot." I thought it was to do with the dead parrot sketch from Monty Python, but it's actually it's a good bit older than that. I mean, 1682, the 70s, what's the difference? It's all in the past, right?
It is. The past is the past.
Who can tell?
Once you're old, you're old.
We all live in a continuous present at the moment with an accelerated culture. So O'Carroll comeback, Croke's fullback returns to dub squad after 4 years. I mean, this might be some of that, because I definitely thought that Mayo and Kerry had a chance if everything worked out a little bit. And, you know, there was a little bit of collateral damage, say, and who knows, maybe Tyrone as well. There's enough good teams that Dublin will have good game, backed up in a way that they haven't had since they've had to play Mayo twice because they drew with them. Mm-hmm. It's the first year, and then
You think that
Rory O'Carroll comes back.
that Kerry, Mayo and Tyrone should be in concert, that the three managers should be meeting each other on a weekly basis, trying to come up with some sort of plan to end the 5 in a row?
Well, are you saying it's not happening?
Well, it could be a very good idea.
On what basis are you saying it's not happening? Where's your evidence of that?
Well, my evidence for it not
Where's your
happening
evidence of that?
absolutely doesn't exist, therefore it is definitely happening.
Where's your evidence for that?
The Irish Independent also have that O'Carroll story. It's Colin Keyes writing that he's about to make his Dublin return, while Parrott Fanning has said that training camp bans are a load of nonsense and that the GEA have bigger fish to fry.
But that's great news. That St George's Cross that Conor Murray is wearing there is not an England jersey. It's a do not tackle our most important player jersey that Munster have.
Yeah, very good news. He is expected to be fit to play Benetton this weekend in the Pro 14 quarter-final. Meanwhile, Cian Tracy's got the headline that Van Gran seeks fresh input with new Munster attack coach. So the Irish Independent understands that Munster have already opened discussions with potential candidates for an attack role. Currently doing the job, it seems that it's Felix Jones doing it, but he's split between a bit of defence as well. So he's been working as backs and attack coach, since 2017. So perhaps he could just focus on backs coach and then he'd have a separate attack coach. On top of that, Van Gran has also had a lot of input when it comes to the attack. So kind of like Leinster did a couple of years ago when they sought more expertise in areas where they perhaps were lacking.
Remember, they got Graham Henry in. People kind of forget that short period of time where he anointed Joey Kirby. There's your out half for the next 10 years. Munster.
You forgot what province he was in.
Munster. And, so, like, the obvious people that everybody's going to talk about right now, the obvious person is Ronan O'Gara, right? That's what people are going to jump to that conclusion. But what about Paul O'Connell?
Why not? Like, what his role with Stade Francais was, I can't quite recall.
I mean, it doesn't...
It doesn't matter, though, does it?
No, because, like, if you give him one thing to focus on, he's going to be hyper-competitive at it. We'll do all the work. We'll come up with good ideas. We'll be able to communicate it well to his players. We'll have the instant respect of everybody. Like, is he not also has an opening at the moment for just such a job? Is that a potential? Just throwing it out there. Don't know anything. Irish Daily Mail. Ban is a sham. It's good. Ban is a sham.
It's fine. Like, it's no sick as a parrot.
Data boss hit out at foreign trips rule, and then to infinity and beyond, buzzing Pochettino tells his Spurs players to reach for the stars. Now United want Rio as sporting director. What? Really? What? Mike Phelan, Rio? I mean, as the roulette wheel continues to go around with the Man United head instead of red or black, what's it going to land on? Roy Keane?
No.
Arthur Albiston?
No.
Peter Schmeichel?
Peter Schmeichel, maybe.
No.
Peter Schmeichel has a better chance than Roy Keane.
No, they're all ridiculous. Rio Ferdinand's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
You need somebody who has scouted every single team, who knows all the scouts. You need someone who, understands exactly... Rio Ferdinand has met Manchester United Executive Vice Chairman Ed Woodward to discuss becoming the club's sporting director. Now, do you think Rio has that meeting and says, here, I want the job, and Ed goes... Well, you're in the media, so I'm going to have to sit here and smile and listen and go, yeah, Rio, yeah, sure, you can leak this now, make me look stupid again. Well, I suppose, what's the price of you not just having a go at me?
Is this Rio Ferdinand news dependent on Solskjaer turning things back around once again? United's
owners, the Glazer family, have been keen to get the former England defender on board since his retirement 4 years ago, but personal circumstances made that unworkable. Ferdinand did his best to undercut David Moyes, and now it turned out he was right about Moyes, so maybe that was the right thing to do. Maybe the standards dropped so precipitously when Moyes arrived that it was incumbent upon the senior players like Ferdinand to go, this is the wrong guy. We are doing things wrong. This is not how you do things at a team that's going to win the championship or compete for the European Cup. So maybe he did know a lot about that. And maybe, you kind of have to reconsider how his United career ended at that point. But I don't know. United are restructuring and want someone to oversee transfer strategy and talks while being in tune with the manager. Ferdinand, given his United links and business experience. Woodward has identified Ferdinand, given his United links and business experience. I don't know. Ferdinand's not the right character for this yet. If he wants to be that person down the road, you got to go and spend your time, or you got to be your assistant to somebody who you're plugging in from the global game, who is absolutely immersed in how transfers work, what the best contractual nuances are in the world of sport at the moment, in how the finances of the club are supposed to be run, and somebody who completely is on top of what 14-year-old goalkeeper at Ajax is the best 14-year-old goalkeeper in the world.
It's impossible to be completely on top of that. Like, it's obviously huge teams that are running these scouting missions, but I guess there is a learned experience you can get about how to run a team like that, or how to be a sporting director. Like, how do you become a successful sporting director? You'd imagine that a lot of it is learning on the job, or, as you say, being assistant sporting director, or seeing how somebody better than you does it. Like, when you talk about some of the best sporting directors in the world, like, it's very tough to see how you actually get to that level without years and years of being involved in the business of football. And ultimately, has Rio Ferdinand been involved in the business of football? Maybe he has. Like, I mean, you look at his kind of presence on social media, for example. He's very careful of brand Ferdinand. He's he kind of like had a fly on the wall sort of live action documentary about him made during the World Cup last year, just as part of his own brand. Like, he does seem to have a lot of business now, but ultimately that's just not enough to become a sporting director.
No, and it's all been business now. It's about an individual as opposed to about a team or a club. Here's his reaction on BT Sport immediately after Man United's dramatic last gasp Champions League win against PSG.
Listen, all he's got to, Man United might not thank me, but get the contract out, put it on the table. Yeah. Let him sign it, let him write whatever numbers he wants to put on there, give him what he's done now since he's come in, and let him sign the contract and go. Ollie's at the wheel, man, he's doing it, he's doing his thing. Man United are back.
That should have been the closing. I should have let you do it tonight.
Well, you know, himself and Gary Neville that night, I think, disqualified themselves from being the sporting director of Manchester United. Did you see the Gary Neville Ole Gunnar Solskjaer interview after that?
Yes.
Yeah. So, like, you can't, you're too emotionally invested in this. You need to take a step back and be business people for this job, for these roles.
Well, being invested, I can't imagine you can't be emotionally invested in Manchester United if you want to be sporting director of Manchester United. That's okay.
You can't be making emotional decisions like write down whatever numbers you want on this contract, David De Gea, or Marcus Rashford, or whoever who's just done this amazing thing. Go on, I'm going to negotiate with you right this second, because that's the precise moment that we do business.
There is still a little bit of room for emotion when it comes to the business of football. Granted, it's a lot colder than it used to be.
Yeah, your manager can have emotion if that's what he's using as a tool and a spur, but like Cheeky Begerstein can't be having emotion when it comes to deciding whether or not they're going to spend 50 million on Raheem Sterling or 50 million on somebody else, or try and sign Alexis Sanchez. Like,
but when you have that conversation with Raheem Sterling or with Raheem Sterling's agent, granted, agents aren't the most emotional people in the world.
So they're pretty emotional. They're like general joy at the money that they're stealing from you.
Emotion is a useful tool in any negotiation, no? It's not as important as the bottom line, of course, but I'm not saying it's completely null and void. And I think that he cares about Manchester United, and I don't think that should be used to disqualify him.
Caring about him should qualify, but saying you can write whatever numbers you want in the contract, facetiously or not, like, no thanks. I'll have somebody's going to go, we're just going to wait a couple of days and see how you get on. Maybe we're just going to wait until the end of the season here, Ole. You know, who knows, maybe you'll limp out of the Champions League in the next round against Barcelona, and we'll see that actually you're not quite fully on top of this job just yet. Maybe that's what we'll find out. And in the summer, as Mauricio Pochettino celebrates his Champions League victory, we'll go, yeah, come on, Poch, come on. 20 million, who cares? It's only, we spent 800 million on shit players. Yes.
Maybe that's the route to success for Manchester United. Make Rio Ferdinand sporting director now. Rio Ferdinand goes over to Pochettino's house and says, write whatever you want down on that piece of paper and we'll pay to become United manager.
The Racing Post this morning, Mullins holds all the aces. Anderso, Min, Classical Dream and Get a Bird. Champion trainer out for a roaring start with a whole host of stars. You could do a four-timer with those today and you'd get decent odds. Get a Bird's at around 6 or 7 to 1, I think. At least it was when I checked last night.
A couple of the UK back pages then. The Guardian leads with England accused after Hales told World Cup dream is over. He's out of the World Cup plans after a drug ban. And to infinity and beyond, Pochettino focuses on Champions League glory for Tottenham with a little help from Buzz Lightyear. And it's also the headline on the front of the Daily Telegraph sports section. To infinity and beyond, they say. Pochettino on living the dream at Spurs and channeling his inner Buzz Lightyear.
Darren O'Hagan leads the Irish News. O'Hagan would take Ulster final over Super 8. Well, you're just wrong. We were just wrong. I'm sorry, but this is the whole nonsense of the Ulster Football Championship. The Super 8 is where it's at. Well, maybe, look, if you reach the final of the Ulster Championship, obviously you've got a fairly straightforward path to the Super 8s. And it's not an either or, it's a false duality that somehow has become part of the conversation. But, like, really getting beaten in an Ulster final, because that's likely what's going to happen to Down at the moment, versus getting to the Super 8s, getting a home game, seeing where you are, getting a game in Croke Park, having football all the way into whenever the Super 8s actually finish. Much better for a young group of players than getting beaten in an Ulster football final.
Yeah, like I'm not sure is Down the county to be having that sort of discussion with itself about whether they'd prefer to get to an Ulster final or get to a Super 8. I think they'd be delighted to get to either, really. I mean, it's a tough championship, and it's also a tough place to be existing in the back door. It's like we can't actually categorically say whether or not it's going to be an easy path to get to the Super 8s from losing the Ulster final, because it's an open draw on the back door where it's all losers against all winners. Like we just don't know who it could be up against them in the back door. So as you said, I don't know. Like Down making an Ulster final will be a very good achievement. Making the Super 8s would be better for the team. Yeah,
definitely better for the team, better for the management, better for them to understand exactly how things go. Well, Minnan and Dussault are up against each other in the 5:30 today. So you couldn't have all of those four in, but a treble of Get a Bird, Classical Dream and Min is coming out about 9-1.
Are you saying that's a good bet?
I don't know.
If John Duggan gives it the thumbs up, then I'll go in on it.
Get a Bird has fairly staunch competition. It's got to beat Delta Work and A Plutard. And I'm not sure that's going to happen. So, where are we going on? Where are we going?
Should we finish off with the Pochettino quotes before we get into some of the GEA?
Yeah.
Just because I have them here in front of me. So it's not just the Buzz Lightyear stuff. There's also other good stuff in this press conference yesterday, talking about getting the Spurs job. There was some interesting stuff on that, which we've touched on in the back pages. So Pochettino was speaking about going to Daniel Levy's house. He was without shoes, he said, dressed in pyjamas, but it was the afternoon, not the night. It's the truth. We talked first of all about the squad and how they showed me it was 34, 35 players. I said, it's an NFL squad. How are you going to handle that? The principal objective was to help the club build, to finish the training ground, to build a new stadium, to be competitive at the same time. We've done that, and after 5 years, we must congratulate everyone here. We still haven't won a trophy, but what we are doing now is more than just a trophy. So two things there. Is this or is this not better than winning a trophy for Spurs? And second of all, Daniel Levy wears his pyjamas in the middle of the day while doing his negotiations.
I mean, that's mad.
Is that
a ploy?
Is that like, write whatever number you want on this blank piece of paper sort of business like ploying?
No, that's like, I don't know if you've ever seen any of those old, the old Sherlock Holmes where he's wearing his pyjamas in the day and puts a house coat on. Kind of, it's like posh. It's ultra posh.
Do you have a pipe as well?
I mean, does Daniel Levy have a pipe just for show? Is he the type of man who might just have a pipe for show? Maybe.
Well, if I was in his position of power, I would 100% have a pipe for show.
The pyjamas would be silk, right? Definitely. And
there's no question about that.
And like he's not wearing a cheap pair of penny slippers either.
No, it's cashmere. There's a lot of cashmere and silk going on there.
Yeah.
So they're the two things that we take away from it. Like, talking about the NFL squad, it's kind of ironic that he uses that phrase, given the fitness issues that have hit the squad. Granted, it's the reason why Spurs seem to be such a tight-knit little community, is because they've got a thin enough squad.
No players.
But the reason why they might crash out against Ajax is because they have no players. And you talk about this idea of fitness and being under the cosh when it comes to the intense schedule in England. And Pochettino has very vociferously in the past kind of spoken out about this, and Pep as well, about how the English players in the English league get flogged, and is complaining once again about the fact that Ajax got the weekend off, which in fairness to the Eredivisie is like this amazing thing that they also did before the second leg against Real Madrid a couple of rounds ago. And their manager Erik ten Hag has been out and he's kind of hit back at Pochettino. The beef is real, one could say. We play in the Eredivisie and we get 10 million euros from TV and Tottenham gets much more. Is that unfair for us? Those are the circumstances. You just have to deal with them. Which would you rather? Would you rather have a bottomless pit of cash or fit players?
Bottomless pit of cash.
It's probably a tad better. So that adds a little bit of a different edge to tonight. They've also opened up training to their fans as well, something that we haven't seen from too many teams recently.
Ajax.
Yeah, there's a big feel good factor around this Ajax team at the moment.
Of course, we saw Ajax play in the Champions League this year, and I didn't really like the Ajax fans. There was just a little air of tension as they rioted in the stadium.
We're trying to do kind of a subtle character assessment of Ajax as they were throwing bottles and lighting flares
and ripping up seats. I mean, I haven't seen seats being ripped up really since the 1990s, but they're doing a good job of it.
I'm sure when the kind of playing field levels out, when they're in Amsterdam, for example, that it's a much nicer crew. That's pretty much where the Pochettino quotes end.
Van der Sar should be the former United player they should be going for. However, why would you ever want to leave Ajax? For money. You back up the Brinks Allied truck, you open it, and the money falls out, and it's in unmarked bills, and you go, there's one of these every week for you, Edwin, and your family, forever. We're just going to... Scrooge McDuck, off you go. You can wear your jammies, we don't care.
You can actually get paid by cash if you wish. We don't have to wire you the money. We can actually pay you by truckload of money. That's also a bit of an intriguing situation if you are Ajax sporting director, because is that one of the most frustrating jobs in world sports at the moment, or is it actually one of the most exciting?
Or also there's no pressure on you, because if you have a year where something like this happens, everybody goes, what a legend you are, and if nothing else happens, you're like, well, what can I do? The players haven't come through. That's how it goes.
It's the idea of actually regenerating a team that potentially gets to a Champions League final, that's an exciting project in itself.
Yeah, but we all know what happens next, right?
Yes.
Monaco
happens.
You have an 18-month window. Maybe you get most of this team for next year, or the players who leave, it turns out you have replacements already for, because you kind of had an idea that they were leaving, and we already know at least one of them, probably two of them, are going to be gone, and loads more in the summertime when whoever gets promoted into the Premier League from the Championship realises that they can spend 40 million on a player who next year will be worth 80 million if they buy him from Ajax and give him one season in the Premier League. And Bernard says Kevin Moran is Manchester United football director. I mean, of the people whose names that we've gone from, Schmeichel, Arthur Albiston, Roy Keane, Rio Ferdinand, Kevin Moran at least has been involved in the business of football for 20 years. He was involved in an agency and knows the machinations of contracts and what players want. I'm not suggesting for an instant that Kevin Moran is a candidate for that job, but he would have way more qualification than most of the people who we've seen Man United go for. Mike Phelan.
Is Kevin Moran a nice segue into the GAA stories this morning?
Yes, perfect.
We'll come back to Rory O'Carroll in a moment, because Paddy Christie is going to be on the line to analyse his comeback, or his inevitable comeback to the Dublin team. Just to recap on that, he was due to join colleagues for a gym session last night, says Colin Keys in the Irish Independent, and they're back on the pitch this week. So exciting times for Dublin, and exciting times for the country, really.
I think it's exciting times for the country. We should have this conversation now. I think that you want greatness to be achieved while you're watching sport, right? So taking all of Tiger Woods' personality out of what happened, you wanted him to win because this is something that's great, just for the pure sporting spectacle of it. You have now borne witness to the best golfer of all time and his fall and comeback in sporting terms as a human being, just parking that momentarily. I would like to see the Dubs win 5 in a row, because then you'll have seen the greatest football team of all time in their pomp. And that's why I think this year's championship has the potential to be the best football championship that we've had, maybe since Armagh, Kerry and Tyrone were all good at the same time, when there was 3 legitimate All-Ireland contenders.
Okay, there's 2 different points there. The one about the great All-Ireland Championship, and the one about people wanting Dublin to succeed. The reason why the Tiger story is so special is because of the fall and because of the comeback. The lack of mortality about this Dublin team is what makes a lot of us want them to lose. And that's not because we hate them or anything. It's just because mortality is a very attractive attribute to any human being, to any sporting organisation.
Well, no, we all want to be immortal. What are you talking about?
So we want to see the fall of this empire. As much as we admire them, and as much as we admire them as athletes and all that sort of thing, we want to see this empire come crashing down, because that is entertaining. Drama is more entertaining than greatness. And the most dramatic thing that could happen is for Dublin to not win this year's All-Ireland.
No, they have to get 5, and then someone has to stop them.
That's not as fun. It's not as fun nowhere near as fun. Like snatching that from just the jaws of Dublin, like a comeback in the All-Ireland final would make it even more special. If Dublin were up by 5 or 6 points and Lee Keegan charges through and bangs in 2 goals and Cillian O'Connor has the ball on the sideline,
you won't be happy.
I'll be absolutely gutted. But on a singular level, seeing Dublin lose in that manner would be funny. It wouldn't be funny. It kind of would be funny.
No.
But it would be dramatic. And it would be historic, and it would just make what was a great team have actually another kind of layer to their veneer.
We knew last year that Dublin were going to win the All-Ireland at this time. We knew it, right? We knew that they were going to catch it.
We knew that in July. Don't dramatise it.
I think you can look back to this show this time last year when we were going, there's not a hope. This football championship is going to be the most boring one that we've seen, because there is no jeopardy, there is no drama, whereas this year it's completely different. I think that Kerry could be absolutely sensational. I think Tyrone are going to be way better. I think that some of the other chasing the second tier of teams, which is like Donegal and Monaghan, could actually put up good games against anybody in the Super 8, particularly in their home game. And if they'd managed to not screw up Congress and Dublin had to play 2 games outside of Croke Park, I would be feeling like there's a reasonable chance that we're going to see Dublin in tight games 4 times this year, maybe 5.
Well, my take on last year's Summer Championship is that it wasn't as bad as people like to make out. And this is why I agree with you that this could be one of the great football championships, because the Super 8s last year were automatically compared to the new formats in hurling. So you're comparing 2 of the great, especially one of the great all-time provincial championships, which is the Munster Hurling League last year, with the Super 8s, which without Mayo, with an under-firing Kerry, with a bad day for conditions on the first Sunday in Croke Park, it didn't get off to the best footing. I think that game in Omagh between Tyrone and Dublin was a lot better than people made out. I think the Galway against Kildare game was an outstanding game in Newbridge. I think obviously you had clonus between Monaghan and Kerry. You had some of the best football last year played in the Super 8s. So the Super 8s is ripe for picking if you get all the good teams playing good football at once. And as you say, you're going to have Mayo back in there this year. You should do. You'll have a better Kerry. You'll have a far better Tyrone team, which is kind of ironic given they made the All-Ireland last year, plus potentially a resurgent Donegal.